Hello, Ms. Ryan here, and today we are going to work on perspective. A couple of the materials that you will need is a ruler, a number 2 pencil if you have that. I do prefer these pencils over your mechanical pencils just because of the way the pencil moves along the ruler. So if you have this available to you, please try to grab a number 2 pencil. Let's talk about some vocabulary, some new vocabulary words that we didn't have in the last lesson. And the first one is going to be perspective. If someone asks you what perspective is, typical answer would be how you see something. Exactly. Well, as an artist, we want to be able to see something and then draw that onto a piece of paper. So we use the term, it's a technique of representing three-dimensional space on a flat surface. Or in other words, how do we draw a three-dimensional object or space between several objects on a piece of paper and make it look real? So let's define something that's within that definition. 3D. A 3D object is anything that has height, width, and depth. We are going to speak specifically about linear perspective. Linear perspective is where parallel lines receding away from the viewer come to a point. As we know, parallel lines are lines that never cross each other. For instance, if you have a box, and you see that we have parallel lines here to create this box, front and here. And that would be these parallel lines that are receding away from me. What connects the front of our box to the back of our box? We know the front is closer to us, the back of the box is further away from us. So these are the parallel lines that we're speaking of if we'd want to draw this box. So a few things that we're going to need on our paper in order to draw would be our horizon line. A horizon line is a line that's created by our eye level, also known as where the sky and earth meet. On that horizon line, we're going to be using a vanishing point. The vanishing point is where parallel lines receding away from your view appear to come to a point. This point will lie on the horizon line. That's those two lines that are running away from you. As they continue, and if they would continue, they would come to a point which would be your eye level, which is your horizon line. So let's review a few lines that we talked about in the last lesson that we will need to use as we complete this project. The first one is our vertical line. A vertical line is a line that runs up and down and parallel to all other vertical lines. Horizontal line. A horizontal line is a line that runs to the right and left and parallel to all other horizontal lines. When we talked about vertical and horizontal lines, we talked about how we are going to be able to get those parallel. In order to get them parallel to lines like themselves, we're going to be able to use edge of paper, edge of ruler. Your ruler has a 90-degree angle on it. 90-degree angles, and so would your paper, 90-degree angles. So if we match those two up at the bottom edge, we will find that we can get edge of paper, edge of ruler, and when I draw a line, I should be able to get a parallel line. Our third line that we will work on is called a diagonal line. A diagonal line is a line that goes on an angle across your page. Diagonal lines do not need to be parallel to any other lines. We will create these lines as the lines that are receding away from us and coming to a point. We will specifically call those lines orthogonal lines. So an orthogonal line is a diagonal line that always runs to the vanishing point. That's the important part and what makes an orthogonal line different than just an ordinary diagonal line. These lines are the lines that represent those parallel lines that are receding away from us, the viewer, to create the space that shows distance when drawing a three-dimensional object on a flat surface. So, with the materials that you should have received on your computer, if you have a chance to print them out, try to print them out so your instructions are in front of you. If not, you can just follow along on the computer or follow along on the video here. These will be the instructions of step 1, step 2, and step 3 of how to draw a box in one-point perspective. One other thing you may want to grab is an eraser. because you will be doing some erasing. Now, you also should have this paper along with your other downloads. If you can print this out, you can use this. I already have your horizon line on there. I already have a vanishing point set up for you. Now, if you're unable to print, you can go ahead and take your own paper, sheet of paper, and somewhere in the middle of your page, using edge of paper, edge of ruler, just go ahead and put a line across your page. Somewhere in the center, you can go ahead and just press that pencil point down and make a dot in the center. This does not have to be a big round circle. Just a pencil point pressed down that you can see a darker spot right on your horizon line. Okay, so let's go ahead and start with step 1. In order to create our box in perspective, the first thing that we want to draw is our rectangle. So if I have my box in perspective here, I'm going to focus on the rectangle first. And we know that in order to create that front of the box, a rectangle has 2 verticals, 2 horizontal lines, and they are all parallel. So let's start off with my vertical. I'm going to make sure I'm going edge of paper, edge of ruler. Sometimes look at the top of your paper and the bottom. You can also see the space between your ruler and paper, just to double check whether or not you have a parallel line. I'm going to take a vertical line here. I'm not doing any measuring. I'll show you what we do to make sure we have 90-degree angles on our rectangle. Another vertical line, edge of paper, edge of ruler. I would suggest if you're right-handed, always draw on the right side of your ruler. If you're left-handed, draw on the left side of your ruler. As for horizontal lines, I will draw on the top or the bottom of my ruler, and here I'm going to draw on the bottom of my ruler. And I do a little crisscross over my vertical lines because you can see how this line and this line are not equal length. I'm going to go to the bottom here, double check my lines, do a nice horizontal line there, and then I can go back with an eraser and I can erase any excess lines that I have around the edges. Now I've created the front of my box. Again, 2 verticals, 2 horizontals. Verticals are parallel, horizontals are parallel. That's step 1. Let's go to step 2. Step 2, now we are going to create our orthogonal lines. Again, orthogonal lines are our diagonals that are always going to run to the vanishing point. My suggestion is put your pencil point in the corner of your box that you've drawn. Lay your ruler across the vanishing point. This way we're going to make sure that our line goes to our corner and ends on our vanishing point. Take your other 2 corners and do the same thing. Now, one thing about orthogonal lines, depending on your viewpoint, is going to depend on how many orthogonal lines you need to draw. I will show you an example later of 3 boxes, 1 below, 1 over the horizon line, and 1 above. Due to the fact that I have this box down and to my left, as if you were looking at a box like this, but over to our left of our viewpoint a little bit, I will see the front, I will see the side, I will see the top of that box. So we never draw through our box as we are drawing this, or through our rectangles. So be sure not to draw from a corner that would go actually through your rectangle. So that's step 2, orthogonal lines. Step 3 is to do our vertical and horizontal lines that complete the back of our box. So I'm going to find a spot where I want, and you can do either or first, doesn't matter if you do your horizontal or your vertical first. I'm going to do my horizontal, and I'm going to go from this orthogonal line to that orthogonal line. And that's going to create the top back edge of my box. Now I'm going to put my pencil point in this corner. I'm going to make sure I'm edge of paper, edge of ruler, and I'm going to go straight down with a vertical. And as you can see, there's a box there. So step 3 would be to complete your box with your top horizontal or back horizontal and back vertical. And the next thing we would do is go ahead in there and erase these lines, because they're not necessary anymore, because all I want to do is draw a box in 1-point perspective. If you draw lightly, it is typically pretty easy to erase those lines. If you draw heavy, you may find that you're still going to see your lines. So try to draw as light as you can when you do your boxes. Okay, so let me show you 3 boxes that I drew. Here's one of the boxes as you just seen me draw. So that one is below our horizon line. Due to the fact it's below our horizon line, again our eye level, and here's my viewpoint, it is to the left of my viewpoint, I am going to see the front, the side, and the top, as I mentioned before. Now if I go and draw my rectangle over my horizon line, you will notice that now I have an orthogonal line coming down and an orthogonal line going up. Again, if I would draw one from here, it would go through my rectangle. We don't want to draw in our rectangle. So from this corner up, that corner down. And you notice that due to the fact that it is across the horizon line, I only see the front of the box and the side of the box. I don't see the bottom and I don't see the top. Very simple. Once you have drawn your rectangle, your 2 orthogonal lines, you simply just have to draw your back vertical, because that's all you would see in your perspective of that box. I also drew a box up top. Now this box is above my eye level. So as you can see, I drew my rectangle, edge of paper, edge of ruler for my verticals, edge of paper, edge of ruler for my horizontals. And now underneath here, because I'm not going through my rectangle, I drew a line down to the vanishing point, down to the vanishing point, down to the vanishing point. And I needed to do 3 orthogonal lines because it's above my eye level, above my horizon line, and it's to the left of my eye level. So I'm able to see the front, the bottom, and the side of the box. So for your assignment, I would like you to draw 6 boxes anywhere on your paper. Show those orthogonal lines going back to the vanishing point and finish those boxes off with your verticals and horizontals, or whatever it is that you need to complete that box, either or. Okay, so that is it for our perspective. Happy drawing!